Module 2 Phonics, Video 1A, Introduction to Phonics. Video 1A Goals. In this video, we'll define the term phonics and what phonics instruction generally entails. During our later videos, we'll get into all of the specifics about the code and how to teach phonics. We'll examine how phonics instruction affects literacy outcomes. We'll learn what the science reveals about the best way to teach phonics. And we'll identify a suggested sequence for teaching phonics. What is phonics? Phonics is a study of connecting letters to the sounds that they represent. So we often will say that they're really pictures of sounds. So for instance, the sound of A can be represented in a variety of ways. One way we can represent the sound of A is with the letters A and I. We could also represent the sound of A with the letters A and Y. So connecting that sound of A to the picture or the letters that create that sound is really what phonics is all about. So when should we start beginning teaching phonics? So as early as preschool, students are learning about letters, learning letter names, learning the sounds that go with those letters. Especially in kindergarten, this is a crucial skill and one of the most important steps in learning to read. Learning the letter names, learning the sounds that go with them. And then also in kindergarten, particularly toward the end of kindergarten, usually around January, taking those letters and starting to blend to create words. And then throughout early elementary school, particularly in grades K through 2, students are learning those various combinations. We call them phonograms. When we talk about a letter combination or a single letter that represents a sound. That's what a phonogram would be. And the students are learning the variety of phonograms that will help them to read and also to spell. And then in grades 3 through 5, the focus shifts more towards morphology, which is looking at prefixes and suffixes and root words. When we talk about phonics instruction, what exactly are we talking about? What's the content? So as we said before, we're starting by teaching the kids their letters. We want them to know what the name of the letter is, what the sound is, how to properly form the letter. So handwriting is certainly part of that in the younger grades. We're talking about blending the words. So once the students know the different sounds, we have to teach them to explicitly blend those sounds and learn how to make words by blending. We're talking about encoding, which is spelling, where the students have to listen to a word and then they have to pull those sounds and sort of do the reverse that they would be doing when they're reading, which is decoding. When they're spelling, they're encoding. We're teaching them how to read and spell the most common phonograms, and also as they get older, the ones that are a little bit less common. So these would be examples of some of the common vowel teams that we would teach them. And the term vowel team is something we'll be getting into later on. We're teaching them the 6 different kinds of syllables. We'll be getting into this much more extensively. I have a video that focuses just on the 6 main syllable types, and then we'll be getting into each syllable type more specifically and what's involved with each one. So the 6 syllable types are the closed syllable, the open, the silent E, the vowel team, the R-controlled, and then the consonant LE syllable. And then we also move on from phonics to morphology, and I do include some of this with my phonics instruction. So when we're talking about the morphology, we're talking about adding suffixes or prefixes, and then as you get into the upper grades, root words. And then also when we're teaching suffixes, we also have to teach spelling rules. So that also is included in phonics instruction. So why teach phonics at all? So on this slide, we're going to take a minute to look at some of the key findings from the National Reading Panel report in 2000. So that report really synthesized the reading research, and phonics was one of the main 5 ingredients they cited as being really crucial to reading instruction. So we'll just talk about some key points with this. So in the first box here, it said that phonics instruction improved word recognition and spelling skills for students in the primary grades. So not only is this important for reading, but phonics instruction is also important for spelling. Phonics also had a positive impact on reading comprehension of kindergartners and first graders. One of the reasons why it had more of an impact, they believe, in the primary grades is because the students' speaking vocabulary matches with their reading vocabulary. So for instance, they're reading really simplistic words that are words they know, like bed or cat. These are words they know. Whereas when you get into second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you're getting into much more content. And so even if a child can decode a word, if they don't understand what the word means, their comprehension will still suffer. So certainly phonics is not the only thing kids need. They absolutely need that vocabulary development and that background knowledge as well, which is key to comprehension, particularly at the upper grades, grades 2 and above. So one of the things they looked at was the approach to phonics, and they found that systematic phonics yielded better results for students. So that would be systematically would be doing it in a specific order, having it be cumulative versus just teaching skills kind of in sort of a haphazard manner. And then down here, the following point is, although most phonics skills are typically taught to students in grades K2, older struggling students also showed gains in word recognition when given systematic phonics instruction. So the takeaway there is, yes, K2, it's the most important time for kids to receive phonics instruction, but for our older struggling students, they do need to continue to receive that phonics instruction, and it did show that it had a positive impact on their reading even beyond second grade. So in the previous slide, we mentioned that systematic phonics had the best reading outcomes. So we'll take a minute to talk about what does that mean? Systematic and explicit. So that means that the skills are taught in a logical progression, and the skills begin with more simplistic skills and they become increasingly difficult skills. So for instance, starting with short vowels, they're usually taught before long vowels. So you could look at any program that's a structured literacy program, but they're all going to start with short vowels. Now, that doesn't mean the scope and sequence will be exactly the same, because they won't be. They do vary, but certain things like short vowels before long vowels are common in all of them. Explicit, that means that we are clearly explaining it to students. We're directly teaching it, we're modeling it, and then we're having the students do it and we're supporting them. So you can think of this as the I do it and I show you, we do it together, you do it on your own with support. And then this also involves cumulative review. We're constantly coming back to those skills. So you might teach a child short A, and then you move on to short I, but then you continue to reinforce the short A. So you keep coming back to those skills. You don't just teach it for 1 week and then move on, as many traditional phonics programs do. The other thing is you're providing ample practice. You want the students reading and rereading, and you're sending lists home and you're having them increase their speed and improving their automaticity. You're having them read sentences. You're having them read connected text. You're giving them dictation tasks. You may give word dictation, sentence dictation. So you're doing the reading and you're doing the writing as well. On this slide, we'll go over a suggested order of introduction for phonics skills. Now, there is no one right sequence. You may look at 5 different programs and they all may be slightly different. This is just how I tend to introduce the different concepts for each grade level. Typically in kindergarten, students are still building their phonological awareness. They're learning all 26 letter sounds, and they're blending CBC words, really focusing on those short vowels. They're also learning some irregular words such as the or was to help them read sentences and some simple decodable text. Then we move on to first grade, and this is really a heavy year for phonics because By the end of first grade, we really want students to know the majority of the code. There will still be some work left to do, but the bulk of it really does take place during first grade. So the students are continuing to learn about closed syllables. They'll be learning digraphs. Now we'll be getting into all of these terms more specifically, but digraphs such as like the CH or the SH, reading words with beginning blends and ending blends, open syllable words like go or me or she, the silent E, words like cake or bike. We also have some words that we have the A making a different sound. A can be influenced by the letter L and create that aw sound, such as all. And then A can also be influenced by W and make an ah sound, like in the word want or swan. Students will also be learning about some common vowel teams, long vowel teams, and even some diphthongs in words that are high frequency words, such as day or see. And then we also want to introduce some R-controlled in simple one-syllable words, such as for or car. And then also we'd like to introduce beginning suffixes, and those suffixes that are very common. We see them throughout all different types of text, such as the S, the ing, the ed, and even the er. I like to introduce suffixes early. And then in second grade, we build on all of that knowledge from first grade, and we're really moving more into reading multisyllabic words, so words that have at least 2 syllables. I like to introduce a variety of common suffixes, so we build on those beginning suffixes in first grade and we add more suffixes. We teach students about syllable division patterns, and we expand on those vowel teams by having students read words with vowel teams with suffixes, so we're sort of expanding on that. We'll also look at closed syllable exceptions, such as the words kind or old, where we see a word, it looks like it's a closed syllable, but it's actually pronounced with that long vowel sound. Students will learn about the schwa sound, more about R-controlled syllables, the soft C and G, and just other different types of phonics skills that build on the phonics skills they've learned in first grade. And then in third grade, we will spend a little bit more time on some of those less common vowel teams and the less common R-controlled patterns, also looking at different silent letter combinations. And we also move more into morphology in third grade, prefixes, suffixes, and also spelling rules that we have to apply when students are adding suffixes to words. And then in grades 4 and above, we shift our instruction more towards that morphology, prefixes, suffixes, and roots.